beats. Billionaire dreams. I know niggas who played ball and gave it up for lean.
Millionaire thoughts, billionaire dreams, but my account in overdraft, I'm about to scream.
Rich man greed,
A poor man prayers,
every man bleeds.
but look how God made us.
Too many losses, it's only right that we win. Yeah, I made a promise I'm never gonna lose again.
Yo, what's going on? It's your boy SL550, and this is the Never Gonna Lose Again podcast. Today, man, we're going to talk about a few things and break it the fuck down, you heard? But before we start, man, listen, I reached 108 subscribers, dog, and it was so dope. Like, look, no cap, bro. I was at like 76 subscribers, and like, I dropped my last video, and that thing just got me to over 100. And like, I really appreciate it for real. It's so crazy, right? Because when you think about it, like from the dynamic of like, guys that are just fucking monstrous on the YouTube, you know what I mean? And like, it's not even comparison, like at all. Like, I'm just like a little, dot on the spectrum. But for me, just starting from zero and seeing that it's growing, and that's all I care about is that, every day I'm getting a subscriber or, some comments, some feedback. And that's what's dope about this, man. So, I've been getting some great feedback and shit, and it's keeping me going. But I took off a couple of days because I was working overtime at work. And plus, I just kind of really, honestly, when I thought about it, I'm like, I actually needed this because, like, I've been, like, overloading on information. And it's like, it kind of makes it harder for me to kind of go into like what I'm going to talk about for today, try to come up with these videos or whatever the case may be. So, and I was having technical difficulties with some stuff. That's why I wanted to go live at 8 and, shit happens, dog. But let's get into it, man. Yo, before we start though, man, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. I'm on the road to monetization. And I'm almost, I'm almost a quarter of the way there, man. So I appreciate everybody that's tapping in with me, man. Also, hit that notification bell so you get notified every time your boy drop a dope video. So I wanted to go into a few things today. It's kind of like they don't really go together. You know what I'm saying? I want to talk about Charlie Kirk and everything that is just surrounding his whole assassination. NissCee Social, she broke down, she got a dope ass video breaking down this whole thing, all of this stuff, Candace coming out with, and just how it's not making sense, bro. What the government is putting out there is not making sense, bro. And for me, my question to everything is always, why are they going so hard, so quickly to make us believe what they want us to believe? The same thing they did with John F. Kennedy. As soon as he got assassinated, they needed to come up with a quick narrative for the people to believe, man. And this is why I say, man, we need to stop being a slave to, the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, and just wake up, because this stuff is a lot more larger than we think. You know what I mean? Like we caring about issues that they create specifically to cause division, and we don't see that. A lot of people just don't look at it that way, but that's just what it is. If you think that these people care about trans women, or they really think that women could be men and men could be women, then you're really foolish, because there's no way in the world that they would believe that. But they put these narratives and these things out there for us to grab onto, and people just do, bro. You gotta understand something, right? These people have mastered every part of, the spectrum. Like when you just talk about human behavior, how we act, how different cultures act, how people react, different cultures react. They go into so deep with this shit. They have done studies on human behavior and how we, the cause and effect to things. And that's why everything is by design. None of this stuff is by accident. It just didn't happen to be this way. You know, that's why guys that, you know, like Nick Fuentes, when he talks about, you know, the black community and how, you know, his views is on black people, for instance, I can't respect it because, you know, I'm not, my thing is, I tell people, like, you know, racism isn't prevalent as much as it was, obviously, as back in the day. But at the same time, I'm not naive to history. You feel what I'm saying? And even though you should know about history, we still shouldn't be, you know, teaching our kids, because all of this stuff is just taught behavior. But anyway, that's kind of off topic. But, you know, I just wanted to get into a few videos. I wanted to start with two videos in particular, of Malcolm X, right? Talking about the Democratic Party, right? Also, I'm getting to another video. It starts out with, you know, this video was just on breaking down the black family and the dynamics of the black family and how it was strategically, these programs and different things, welfare, HUD, and all of this stuff was put in place for us to fail, pretty much, you know. And like, if you think the hood isn't the hood by design, you're crazy. It is. The hood was created for various reasons, you know what I'm saying? But trust me, bro, a lot of shit is designed, man. Then we're going to get into a clip with Brandon Lehman. He was talking about Hakeem Jeffries and the Democratic Party in this whole shutdown situation. And then we're going to end the show with NissCee breaking down this whole Charlie Kirk thing, man. So let's get straight into it, man. This was Malcolm X back in the day warning us about the Democratic Party. Warning black people about the Democratic Party, because the black people are so vital in, you know, elections. So let's get into it.
22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. They see that the whites are so evenly divided that every time they vote, the race is so close, they have to go back and count the votes all over again. And which means that any block, any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who'll go to the White House and who'll stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You can keep Johnson in Washington, D.C., or you can send him back to his Texas cotton patch. You're the one who sent Kennedy to Washington. You're the one who put the present Democratic administration in Washington, D.C. The whites were evenly divided. It was the fact that you threw 80% of your votes behind the Democrats that put the Democrats in the White House. When you see this, you can see that the Negro vote is the key factor. And despite the fact that you are in a position to be the determining factor, what do you get out of it? The Democrats have been in Washington, D.C. only because of the Negro vote. They've been down there 4 years. And all other legislation they wanted to bring up, they brought it up and gotten it out of the way, and now they bring up you. And now they bring up you. You put them first, and they put you last. Because you're a chump.
And what I say about this is what they do every time. Even the famous Barack Obama did it. You know, when I showed on the previous podcast where the reporter asked him, yo, you know, why you don't do something specifically for black people? And what they do, oh, that's not how America works. But then he turns around and does stuff for the LGBT community and Native Americans. And, you know, like, bro, it's designed for our culture to fail. You know, it's a lot of information that's withheld from us, period, around the board, right? But you gotta wonder why. That's all about questions to everything. Is why? Why are they strategically wanting blacks specifically to fail so much, especially in America? And then on top of that, you look at how they're basically right now trying to replace the black vote with immigrants, with illegal immigrants. You know what I mean? So like that's how much they care about you, man. political chump.
In Washington, D.C., in the House of Representatives, there are 257 who are Democrats. Only 177 are Republican. In the Senate, there are 67 Democrats. Only 33 are Republicans. The party that you bash controls 2/3 of the House of Representatives and the Senate, and still they can't keep their promise to you, because you're a chump.
Cause you a fucking chump.
Anytime you throw your weight behind a political party that controls 2/3 of the government, and that party can't keep the promise that it made to you during election time, and you're dumb enough to walk around continuing to identify yourself with that party, you're not only a chump, but you're a traitor to your race.
This nigga powerful, dog. Yo, Malcolm X was one of them ones, bro, because he didn't go with political norms. Like, he literally went against the grain on everything, and that's what ultimately got him killed. Whenever somebody is coming to the forefront with information that can, wake the people up, they miraculously get, assassinated. That's the crazy part, man. And most of the time it's in public, and they want you to know, they want you to know these things, because strategically it's like, people think like, yo, if I, talk about certain issues, man, I could lose my life. And, they try to keep people fearful from talking about shit. But yo, Malcolm X is the GOAT. Now, Martin Luther King, is some things I disagree with him, like on like the way he went about certain things, but Martin Luther King was definitely a big voice in the black culture, and they did the same thing with him, try to make him look crazy, try to make him look like a fraud strategically, because he was another black man who was building enormous power to the point where he ain't really give him no options. It was this or nothing. But some of them things that we got in return, he gonna talk about it right here. Let's watch this. Let's get into it.
Fathers have left home in order for their children to get meat and bread. There are so many dehumanizing elements in the welfare system that we are concerned about removing. Ultimately, we are concerned about a guaranteed annual income. And the other thing I think it is very necessary to say is that everybody's on welfare in this country. And when it comes to black people and poor people, we just call it something else. When it's for white people and rich, we call it subsidies.
He said we traded in fathers for bread and meat. Hey man.
It's no secret, fatherless households are more common in the black community. A survey from the American Consensus Institution revealed that 67% of black children under 18 in the US live in homes without fathers. This is a stark contrast to white children, as only 24% of them live in fatherless homes. But it wasn't always like that. The black families survived generations of open racism, widespread poverty, and slavery. They lived through segregation and violence, and strong family bonds used to be the norm.
As of 1960, 2/3 of all black American children were living with both parents. That declined over the years until only 1/3 were living with both parents in 1995. So it's not the legacy of slavery that destroys the African American family.
It's the legacy of the welfare.
Between 1890 and 1950, the marriage rate was much higher among black women than white women. A fraction of black children lived in homes without their fathers. But everything changed with the expansion of the welfare state. It divided the household and created a dependency on welfare. This kind of reminds me of what President Reagan said.
I've always felt the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
So, what happened? What's the mechanism? Here is a detailed look at how the welfare state played a role in the dissolving of the family.
Hey, y'all, I wanted to say, the reason why I'm playing this is not because, obviously it's good to get information on, how these things systematically, was fucking up the household, but it's more about the deception of Democrats. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not sitting here, saying that Republicans are the best, thing in the world. I'm saying that, strategically, the Democratic Party has been, and I'm talking about the black community, has been systematically ruining the black culture, community, promoting nothing but violence and negativity, and are the architects of the design of the ghettos today, and the broken homes and the marriage rates dropping dramatically, and all of these things was a result from the Democratic Party. Period. I don't give a fuck what nobody talking about.
Structure over the years.
They
People
don't
say
care
that the
about
breakdown of
us.
traditional family units, family structures, is a byproduct of black poverty, not just because there is no man to support the family financially, but also because women tend to earn less than men on average. Of course, the connection between the two is there, but it goes deeper than that. Welfare was a mean little business. It was designed to get people by in a pinch. Public assistance programs, like welfare entitlements, have been a part of American culture since the 1940s. Unfortunately, like in many other aspects of government institutions, black Americans were left out. In time, black people could also get financial support, but it wasn't easy. Mothers who applied for checks had to let social workers inspect their homes to see if their conditions were suitable for welfare. These workers also had to make sure no man was living in the house. But even if they qualified for support, the amount they received was meager.
Yo, just think about that though. In order for me to get help from the federal government, a man could, why? Why can't a man be in the home? Why? Why is always the question, right? Like, bro, you made a stipulation in order to get assistance from the federal government, to get some help because you care about us so much, but they literally would come to the home to make sure that you didn't have a man there. They're like, bro, that's because they understand that a man, not even just a man, but the dynamic of a man and a husband and wife raising children, the outcomes for them children are so much more better, and they know this. You know what I'm saying? So they come up with these, they come up with these fake solutions in order to help the poor, but the results of it long term are disastrous, and we see that today in 2025. And it's just crazy to me how people are really slaves to the Democratic Party, or to any party in general, but specifically the Democratic Party, when they literally are the architects of the reasons why we're in the conditions that we're in today. It's crazy. It's
and not enough
crazy.
to build a stable life. In the early 1960s, welfare was not yet common, even in the most impoverished black communities. In the decade that followed, the number of black people on welfare went up by 169%. They further increased by 30% from 1970 to 1975. In 1972, New York City, almost 1 out of every 6 residents was on welfare. A major portion of these households were black. Although black people were only around 1/10 of all Americans, they made up almost 50% of all welfare recipients by the late 70s. A recent UNICEF report showed that many children under 18 in America struggle financially, and African American children are nearly 4 times more likely to be in poverty than white children. Though the number of families receiving cash assistance has decreased since 1996, child poverty rates for black children in the US remain high. This outcome is not by accident. I studied the evolution of social welfare policies in the US from the New Deal to the 1996 reforms, and found that these policies have been discriminatory from the start. And a lot of people can confess to that. This led many black families to fall into cultural and economic ruin. In a short period, healthy black people started relying on government assistance to achieve some level of normalcy. But within the city slums, that normalcy was impossible to get. Black children barely knew their fathers, and most were raised by unemployed and unmarried mothers stuck in a cycle of poverty and modest paychecks. This marked a significant shift in black American history. The consequences were severe for the next generation. Let's start with the Social Security Act of 1935. It was introduced during Franklin Roosevelt's administration. It was designed to create the safety net in the country, safeguarding families from losing their income. It was viewed as a significant part of New Deal reform and paved the way for federal protections in the future, such as the Affordable Care Act and Medicare. This policy had two main parts. The first part had social insurance programs that provided financial support to dependents of deceased or incapacitated workers and Social Security for retired older Americans. The second part comprised means-tested public assistance programs, initially known as Aid to Dependent Children and later renamed Aid to Families with Dependent Children. In 1962, under the Kennedy administration, ideally, it was believed that as the overall quality of life in the country improved, more families could support themselves without needing financial assistance from the ADC program. Eventually, the ADC program would become unnecessary and gradually phase out on its own. But this posed a major problem for Black Americans. Like any other component of the New Deal, the origins of the Social Security Act were deeply rooted in racism. During the 1930s and 1940s, Black people had to deal with widespread racial discrimination in the workplace. They held low-paying jobs, often paid in cash and off the books. This made them ineligible for social insurance programs. The ADC program was an extension of state-run programs that supported widowed mothers, but mostly benefited white widows. The states decided eligibility and need, and since the separate but equal doctrine was in place, Blacks were still excluded from fully participating. Jim Crow laws and the separate but equal doctrine led to a system with different services for whites and Blacks. But, as we all know by now, they were far from equal. States made efforts to cut down ADC enrollment and costs. They proposed residency requirements to prevent Blacks from the South from qualifying for the program. In 1935, there was a hearing on a bill, and the NAACP, an organization that fights for civil rights, expressed their concerns. Southern politicians wanted to exclude agricultural and domestic workers from the bill. This meant that many Black workers couldn't get the support they needed. This exclusion would particularly affect Black sharecroppers and cash tenants, who were already struggling to make ends meet.
All systematic shit that they put in place that they know is going to hurt the black people specifically.
Even though the NAACP was highly against it, the Social Security Act was approved. That's why 65% of African Americans nationwide were not eligible for benefits, and an even larger percentage of these Black families in the South were excluded from the program. In the 1950s and 60s, things got even worse for Black families. Welfare checks incentivized single-mother households, and there was one rule that ruined it all: the man-in-the-house rule. Black families have long been the victims of income inequality and bad government policies. The irony, of course, is that conservatives pushed Black mothers to break their families to get welfare. Before 1968, many states and administrative agencies created and enforced the man-in-the-house rule. This rule basically meant that if there is a working or healthy man in the house, the government can't help you. And they would go as far as to send welfare workers to visit the homes without warning to check if a man was present. If they found any evidence whatsoever, families lost their welfare benefits. Over the years, the welfare state started dissolving the family structure, slowly but surely. A man who can't get a decent job and provide a substantial income suddenly believes that his family is better off without him. So, if a man were to lose his job, he literally had to leave the house so his children could get government surplus peanut butter, beans, and cheese. On the other hand, if either the woman or the man, or both, were irresponsible, they faced no consequences for their actions. And it was the taxpayers who ended up paying for it. These things aren't exactly designed to keep the marriage intact. They are meant to divide people. The harm done to the children was massive. Many children experienced division from broken families at such a young age. In 1960, just 33% of Black American children didn't live with two parents, but by 1988, that rate went up to 61%. In that time, the proportion of Black children born to single mothers rose from 23% to more than 60%. This is exactly why we can't judge government policies based on their ideals, but based on their results. And these results, well, left a ton of households fatherless. I mean, think about it. What would the result have been if this welfare policy had required the opposite of that? That both parents live in the same home and care for their children to receive government assistance. The welfare state did what slavery couldn't do. It broke families apart. And broken families fuel poverty. The structure of the family can influence the choices children make. For example, boys raised without their fathers are more likely to drop out of school, get violence, use drugs, or go to jail. Girls are more likely to have a child out of wedlock or engage in sexual activities at a very early age. These children are also more prone to mental health problems, which can affect them as adults. A psychology test detailed in Roy Baumeister and John Tierney's book, Willpower, showed that children from fatherless households were more likely to settle for a small prize straight away. In contrast, children with fathers present were more willing to wait for a bigger prize. Experts from the Northwestern Institute for Policy Research challenged that these effects are primarily due to dangerous neighborhoods or poor schools. They found that the direct effect of family structure itself played a more significant role. As marriage rates declined among the poor and working class in the US, the institution of marriage has remained strong among the wealthier population, with similar rates to those from 50 years ago. At the same time, the decrease in marriage among the working class has led to a significant rise in out-of-wedlock births, often to couples who are living together without being married. This happens because people view marriage as an ideal situation.
They lied to you. They told you independent. You could do it all by yourself. You could do bad all by yourself. Yo, this shit be deep, bro.
But feel it is
this
unachievable,
shit be so deep.
Yet they still want to have children.
It's all about division, bro. Division. They want to cause division, chaos, all types of dependency. While they're ruining households strategically, they're making the government more bigger, and making us pay for it. That's the crazy part.
In the mid-1980s,
we gotta
the rates
pay
of
for it.
fatherless
We gotta pay
households
for the
dramatically
destruction of our
increased.
own people.
Today, just 44% of black children live with their fathers. Also, a lot more black children are born outside of marriage. The rates of such cases went up from 24.5% in 1964 to 70.7% by 1994, which remains at a similar level today. Many people blame the expansion of welfare programs for the breakdown of black families. Since 1935, people have had access to cash welfare, but this welfare was quite modest and not enough to cover any of the living expenses. With Johnson's Great Society, which began in 1964, welfare benefits became much more generous and controlled. When I mean controlled, I mean crazy. The man in the house rule discouraged marriage because it provided welfare assistance to mothers if no man was living in the house. If a mother married an employed man, even one earning the minimum wage, it jeopardized her financial support. These benefits were huge. The Great Society programs offered a way out for low-income black families. This could be why, in 1964, only 7% of American children were born out of wedlock, compared to the current rate of 40%. So basically, the government urged mothers to keep fathers out of the home and paid them well for doing so. Shifts in the labor market and deindustrialization greatly impacted job opportunities, especially for low-skilled workers. It hurt both whites and black people, but black communities were the most affected. Here's an example. Imagine a city like Detroit, where the manufacturing industry was the top employer, and many black men held manufacturing jobs. Here, in the 1970s, 56% of black men were in the manufacturing industry, but by 2000, it dropped to 26%. Over the years, technological advancements and economic shifts created a demand for skilled workers in other sectors, like healthcare or technology. These new jobs required a higher level of education and specialized skills. The problem was the lower level of education among black men on average. As jobs increasingly required education beyond high school, black men faced many challenges. This made it harder for them to adapt to the changing job market and find new employment in other industries. White men were better equipped to handle the changing job market. They had higher education and a greater chance of securing well-paid jobs in emerging industries. Then there was the 90s gear change. In the late 1990s, efforts to reform the AFDC program took on more subtle forms of racism. Critics claimed that the program encouraged out-of-wedlock births, irresponsible
forms of
fatherhood,
racism,
and dependency across generations. During this time, there was a lot of public concern about the cost of welfare programs. Some people believed that the programs contributed to rising taxes and national debt. It tapped into public fears and created a seriously negative perception of people who received welfare. There were a lot of misconceptions and stereotypes about those who lived in poverty. So, the reform bill that was eventually passed replaced the AFDC with TANF, Temporary Assistance to Needy Families. The new bill imposed stricter work requirements, expecting single mothers to find work within 2 years of receiving benefits. There was also a 5-year limit on receiving benefits. To promote traditional family values, teenage mothers didn't receive benefits. But that was not all. If a father were to fall behind on child support payments, they could face threats of imprisonment. The bill restricted the use of federally funded TANF for certain groups of immigrants. There were also eligibility limitations on Medicaid, food stamps, and supplementary Social Security income, SSI. these measures were just too harsh. They made it difficult for families in need to get proper financial support. Instead of addressing the root of poverty and creating new employment opportunities, it just punished those who already struggled financially. Well, today, modern problems require new solutions. According to Forbes, the economic status of Black Americans is still far behind compared to white people in terms of stock ownership, net worth, income, home ownership, and other metrics. In the United States, Black workers earn about 30% less than white workers. Almost 50% of Black workers are working in retail, food services, healthcare, and accommodation, and a huge chunk of these workers are doing lower paying services. Imagine getting paid more than 40% less than white men for doing the exact same job. If you are a Black woman in the US, this is more likely to happen. In 2020, Black women earned around 58% of what white men earned on average. Similar to Latinas and Native women, Black women face a much more significant pay gap compared to all women. This is because they face both racism and sexism in the workplace. Today, the Social Security program is a backbone for many Black families. It protects them through disability, retirement, or death. The program is crucial because African Americans often lack financial resources and have higher disability rates. The program is meant to help those who earn low income get benefits. Those who heavily rely on Social Security are older Black people with lower lifetime earnings and fewer pension benefits. For example, in
moral of the story is we've been lied to. We've been lied to, people. You know, and my thing is this: we know this information, and instead of us being like, yo, we need to, you know, be more family oriented. We need to work together. We need to start building, becoming more entrepreneurial, like, you know, creating businesses, you know, hiring our people, paying them well. We just want to continue to go down the same path of destruction. But I wanted to move on from that. I just wanted to play that, man, because, yo, bro, the government, that's why I say, bro, the government, they're not your friend, bro. They're not our friends, bro. They literally rob us on a daily basis. I wouldn't say legally, because from what I heard, there is nothing on the books, no laws that even say that we have to pay taxes. That's literally some made up shit. But they getting it off. And this is why I say, like, the main thing they want to cause is division. They don't want people really zoning in and looking in on, you know, the shit that they're doing. You know, they don't want us really getting a proper education. They don't want us getting into politics. They don't want us, becoming lawyers and doctors and these, you know, different things that we were striving for back in the, you know, early 1900s into the, you know, 1950s. You know, like, they didn't want that. They don't want that for whatever reason. The systematic destruction of Black people in America is crazy to me. This is why we gotta wake the fuck up. And as Americans in general, as just citizens, we gotta understand that the government does not have our best interests. Their whole thing is how to stay, you know, in power and be the power structure that, but, you know, you give us little shit, you know, that we could be happy about, so we can, you know, not overthrow the government. Man, they said, yo, bro, this stuff be so much deeper than we think, bro. That's why I love, like, you know, I love getting into the history of shit, because we understand why we are where we are today. But let's get into this next video with Brandon Lehman talking about what's going on with this whole shutdown and more. Let's go.
And gentlemen, our boy Hakeem Jeffries, Walmart Obama, Temu Obama, Great Value Obama gets nuked by CNBC over the Democrats shutting down the government. Make sure you watch till the end, because this is less of an interview and more of an embarrassing 15-minute consistent scolding by the entire CNBC panel. They humiliate Hakeem, they interrupt him and fact check his lies, they force him into these stuttery word salad valid answers, and it gets so bad that the entire panel starts to get annoyed. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel. You guys are going to love this one, but let's start with this first clip showing that the hosts did not come to play with Hakeem Jeffries today.
Senator, but we're talking about a continuing resolution to keep the government open and then going into the normal appropriations process. I mean, there was an election, and the Republicans were put in a position where they were able to pass the big, beautiful bill, or you call it the big, ugly bill. To then say, we don't like any of that, so we're going to shut down the government until you take back all the things that you duly passed through legislation. If Republicans had tried to do that to the Inflation Reduction Act or any of the acts that Biden and that administration have passed, if they said we're going to shut down the government because we don't like any of those things you did, we're going to not pay our military, we're going to, not allow the government to reopen until you do what we want. After an election where the American people put Democrats in power, you'd be going crazy. You'd be going crazy about using a shutdown of the government with a continuing resolution to get what you want just because you don't like what the Republicans did. It's not how it works. It's bad. It's bad precedent, and it's just clear. And you're talking about the House. You've already passed this. The Senate is who we're talking about, and they have a bill which will reopen the government right now with 5 more Democrats.
And that's what I meant when I said this is less of an interview and more just Hakeem sitting through a consistent scolding. Because where was the question? He just grilled Walmart Obama and let him know that he was a political terrorist. The Democrats seem to not be in favor of democratic elections whenever they don't go their way. The American people voted a certain...
And then they'll talk about insurrections and, all of it. It's funny because it's projection, bro. Like, the same thing that they said that, oh, Donald Trump is not accepting the results of the election. They did the same thing. You got people that still today, that are saying that, Donald Trump stole the election, even though he won every swing state. He won the popular vote. He literally won every category possible in the election, and they'll still say that it was stolen. These people are so
and for
corrupt,
a certain
bro.
legislative agenda to be passed on their behalf.
Politicians.
And despite that being our process where the majority party gets to govern, the Democrats have decided to hold the entire government hostage until every element of the big, beautiful bill is repealed. It says a lot that despite all of the crappy legislation that Joe Biden passed into law, the Republicans had respect for the norms and etiquette of democratic government and didn't engage in political terrorism to get what they want. But the last time a government shutdown did happen? Trump's first term. This is just who the Democrats are. They have no respect for the norms. They have no respect for democratic elections. That's why they anointed Kamala Harris without a single Democratic vote. And they can't accept the fact that they don't get every single thing that they want every single time. And now they're willing to let millions of federal workers go without pay just to prove to their radical base that they're willing to fight and oppose Donald Trump by any means necessary.
Just think about that, though. They literally didn't even have a primary. They literally just said, you're going to be the candidate. That's how much they care about the American people. And they did that because it's about power. They just wanted to stay in power so they could keep doing the goofy shit that they was doing. And they assumed that, okay, we're desperate. What do they always do in desperate times? They need the black vote. All right, come on, Kamala. We know you Indian and Jamaican, but we need you to pull the black card off. And you're a woman. You know what I'm saying? So these people
and they don't
corrupt.
lose their job to a bunch of AOC revolutionaries. But let's get back into the interview because the destruction of Hakeem Jeffries is only beginning.
But Leader Jeffries, we know that there are, varying opinions on both sides of the aisle, sharply differing opinions on how to do everything. And you've just outlined a lot of things that Democrats, a lot of problems they have with Republicans. Republicans have a laundry list of things that happened during the Biden administration that they feel the same way about. And I guarantee if they had shut down the government and said, we want a bipartisan talk on doing all this, but what Republicans want, Democrats, their hair would have been on fire. Democrats would have said that's not the way to do it. You can't do it through a government shutdown. And now you're employing that same tactic on what I'm sure you feel are very important issues, but it just looks like, politics as usual to a lot of people.
That's the problem with Democrats. They're so dramatic. They're so self-righteous. They believe everything they stand for is existentially important. They have this sanctimonious attitude where everything they believe in isn't a mere policy debate. It's a life or death issue. They think they're holier than thou, therefore their concerns warrant being addressed immediately and agreed to in totality. The problems they want addressed with healthcare can't be negotiated and hashed out in the period of a week or two, and yet they're shutting down the government until their demands are met. That's because they have no interest in good faith debate or bipartisanship. They want their laundry list of demands to be met via arm twisting, but somehow still don't realize that Donald Trump isn't going to be bullied into giving them $1 trillion for free health care for illegals. They're delusional, and this is a stunt. They're willing to halt functions of the entire federal government, force millions of workers to go without pay, also their radical base don't vote them out of office. But let's watch this next clip where Hakeem tries to explain how the shutdown is the Republicans' fault, and a different host on the panel fire some shots at him.
What is bad precedent is the Republican refusal to engage in bipartisan negotiations. What is bad precedent is the Republicans embarking on a my way or the highway approach from the very beginning of this Congress. Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. Joe, you're exactly right. So if the government shuts down, they've made the decision to shut the government down. And they can reopen it right now if they chose to, with a rule change in the Senate. But I just explained it. The reality is they want to keep the government closed. Cruelty from the very beginning of this administration has been the point. And the responsible thing to do is to sit down and negotiate a bipartisan path forward to address a very real...
Bro, they just want our money. They want to be able to steal your money. That's all they care about, bro. They need the money. It's all about money, bro. It's all about money. They need the money. They need it. You're taking away our money. Yo, Trump is killing these motherfuckers, dog. Like he's killing
crisis that's upon us right now.
Minority Leader, can you do that? Can you do those negotiations while the government is reopened? I think that's the offer that's been on the table.
Exactly.
That's the whole point.
They literally said that. Like, yo, I showed the clip last time of Speaker Johnson saying that. He said, "Look, we'll talk. Let's get the government back open, and then we'll talk." Bro, they don't want to do this. The one thing that I've learned, if I learned anything, looking at politics for the first time this past election, is that I don't hear no solutions. Nothing positive for number one, but no solutions. Nothing is like, when you debate, it's like, yo, my argument is, whatever. You feel me? And the rebuttal is how my argument is better, because the outcome, they have no outcome for nothing. Everything is Trump is a bad guy. They use like, oh, it's not a clean bill. It's a dirty bill and all. Bro, it's all theater, bro. These people, politics is a joke, bro. This shit it's like high school shit. It's like little kid shit. You know what I mean? Oh, you took my basketballs. Like, bro, these people are crazy,
point
bro.
that he and the rest of the Democrats continue to ignore. You're refusing to fund the government for 7 weeks while you deal with all of these negotiations. That's because they're not looking for negotiations. They're looking for Republicans to arbitrarily sign on to a plan to re-implement their radical woke agenda. And he mentioned that Republicans could use the nuclear option, break precedent, and just push this funding through anyway. But the Republicans actually have respect for the norms and aren't trying to erode all of our...
And it's funny that he say that, right? A little off subject, but when he said that, everybody that like kind of like gives their opinion, like most black people that I've talked to literally do not like Trump. It's the norm. It's like normal shit to, when you bring up anything that has to do with politics, anything that's negative that's going on, they blame Trump. You know what I'm saying? And what they don't understand, and they'll say the whole dictator. They say all the shit that they spread on legacy media. That's what you'll hear most black people and people and Democrats in general say. And that was like the whole dictator thing. But when you look at, you know, all of the things that have happened, you know, for instance, with the local judges stopping Trump with immigration and all of that. And he was waiting for rulings from the Supreme Court to keep doing certain things. Like everything that I've seen with Donald Trump is him literally doing the opposite of what a dictator would do. A dictator would do what they want to do. You know what I'm saying? But he's going by the book. He's going by the law. It's the same dude when he could have literally went after Hillary Clinton and got her locked up and got her arrested for all the shady shit she done did. But he didn't, because he said that wouldn't be, you know, a good look for us as Americans. So, like, I don't see the dictator thing. I don't see it.
Procedures like the Democrats would. Basically, the Senate Majority Leader, if he wanted to, could overrule Senate precedent that requires 60 votes to pass legislation. But that's traditionally something both parties withhold from doing because it will be used against them when the opposite party takes power. And if Donald Trump was the supposed dictator that the Democrats claim he is, why wouldn't he just instruct the Senate Majority Leader to do that, and he could pass all the laws he wants? Once again, Donald Trump proving he's the worst fascist of all time. If Donald Trump was truly a dictator, he wouldn't be worried about the Democrats breaking that precedent when they get back into power, because they would never be getting back into power. And Democrats have already threatened to use the nuclear option to do things like pack the Supreme Court, to give Puerto Rico and D.C. statehood, cementing a Democrat majority. All kinds of insane, undemocratic things to tip the balance of power in their favor. But this is where the lady on the CNBC panel starts to lose her patience with Hakeem Jeffries and gives him a piece of her mind.
Our view is, what Johnson said, is that healthcare is an irrelevant extraneous issue. No, it's not an extraneous issue, it's a central issue. And we need to deal with it right now. And we're willing to sit down and have that conversation. We want to reopen the government.
But you're not going to fix this. That's a negotiation that is going to take a very long time. Employees, including the military, are not going to get paid on October 15th. Can you have these negotiations?
And that's an issue that we believe should. And that's an issue that we believe should be dealt with respect to our troops in a bipartisan way, in a manner that it has been dealt with in the past in previous shutdowns,
in the past, you've had appropriations
in
bills
October
that had already
of
been
2013.
For the right.
I'm talking about in October of 2013, where as a standalone issue, the military pay for our families and men and women in uniform was dealt with. That's what I'm making reference to. So who should get paid besides the military? You think the TSA agents should get paid? Where does the line stop for who gets paid and who doesn't? The law requires everyone to be paid, and unfortunately, Donald Trump has once again suggested that no one is going to get paid.
Run the clip back and look at her face. She is completely disgusted with him. She thinks he is a scumbag. Instead of just reopening the government so everybody can get paid, he instead wants to...
You know it's bad when it's coming to a point when... when legacy media is like, come on, bro. Come on, bro. Y'all doing too much now.
Make things 10 times more complicated and pass standalone legislation that pays the military and every other federal employee separately. These are unserious people, and their authoritarian tactics are so obvious. That's why no one's falling for the lie that this is a Republican shutdown. They control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. We all know it's the Democrats obstructing, and not even in a good faith way. They are demanding things like more free taxpayer-funded transgender surgeries, more free taxpayer health care for illegal aliens, things that they know Donald Trump is not going to agree to. This is just a charade, a spectacle, because they're a bunch of theater kids. They're a bunch of ivory tower, corrupt, self-serving politicians who believe their interests supersede the interests of the American people. They didn't vote for you, bro. Get over it. You claim to be the party fighting to preserve democracy, but now you're throwing a fit and taking your ball home because democracy didn't go in your favor. And this is when the hosts finally get exhausted with him and just tell him to his face, sir, people have to get paid in 5 days, and we're not going to fix the entire healthcare system before then.
But their premiums may actually triple to $24,000 a year, unable to afford that. That's what we're talking about. And this is a very real thing that's happening right now.
We're not going to fix Obamacare or the AC. There's a lot of issues that are not just the expiration of the subsidies that are causing a lot of these problems. And you're not going to be able to fix it and negotiate it between now and reopening the government. You got to reopen the government first and then get.
We made very clear at the beginning of September that we will find a bipartisan path forward to keep the government open and enact a spending agreement that meets the needs of the American people. What we also said is we will not support a partisan Republican spending bill that continues to gut the health care of the American people. But it was already
supported the
This wasn't an 11th hour position. It was a position that we articulated early on, and unfortunately, Republicans chose a my way or the highway approach that they
Democrats
are continuing
voted for
right
the
now in the Senate.
Initially. This is the same funding that was already passed by both houses.
Yeah.
I explained that Democrats in the House strongly opposed this spending bill in March because it hurt the American people.
Right. The American people voted for the Republican Party, and the Republican Party passed a piece of legislation that the American people wanted. But because it wasn't what the Democrats wanted, they feel justified to shut down the entire federal government. It's like a kid who throws a tantrum in the middle of the store because his parent won't buy him a toy. Every self-respecting parent would not buy their kid that toy to shut them up because they know it only encourages and solidifies that kind of behavior. And they expect Donald Trump, of all people, to give in to their ludicrous demands. Read the room. Check the temperature of the political climate. In the words of Donald Trump himself, you do not have the cards. It's like Hakeem and the rest of the Democrats assume everyone else in the world is just another radical Trump-deranged lunatic like themselves, and unanimously support the Democrats' childish and undemocratic obstruction and see everything as an existential life or death issue. The American people expect both sides to debate, to argue, to negotiate. But they expect that the government is open while they're doing this. They don't want massive delays at the airport. They don't want massive delays when they call their Social Security office. But that's what the Democrats are giving them, all to provide free health care for illegal aliens, something the American people are overwhelmingly against. But the last clip I'm going to show you is them calling out Hakeem for the Democrats openly admitting that they're merely playing politics here, because Chuck Schumer said, every day the government stays closed, it's better for us. Take a look.
There's clearly a game of chicken going on here, and I think it was expressed in many ways by Senator Schumer in terms of how strategically there is a view among Democrats that the longer you can hold out, perhaps the better chance you have either to get what you want or to push the Republicans into some kind of other place. And my question to you is how you think about that, given the trade-off, of course, which is all of the government workers which are currently being furloughed and not being paid.
I think that Leader Schumer and Senate Democrats have taken a strong and principled position for all of the right reasons in the face of this Republican health care crisis. Remember, this is something that has been ongoing from the very beginning of this Congress. The largest cut to Medicaid in American history, forcing, we believe, 14 million people off of health care coverage.
The normal way this would be handled is the Democrats would make clear publicly that they oppose the contents in the big, beautiful bill. They would tell people all of the scary, devastating things that are going to occur, and they would campaign and make their case to the American people why they should vote Democrat in 2026 and take the country in a different direction. That is how this process works and has always worked. But Democrats, true to their nature, have no respect for the democratic process. They don't respect our political structure that sometimes you're in the minority, sometimes you're in the majority, and instead elected to hold the government hostage as the minority party until they get what they want, like a bunch of dictators. And they're taking this discombobulated, aggressive approach because they're absolutely horrible at political strategy. The lesser of two evils for the Democrats would have clearly been to leave the government open, because now Donald Trump has unilateral authority to determine what stays open, who gets fired, and these changes are permanent.
So ultimately, they literally are playing right into Donald Trump's like hand, bro. This dude strategically is like ruining their whole shit. Like I just don't see any. And this is what I was telling because somebody I know, they like sending me clips. It be bullshit clips though. It don't even be like nothing that's like, you know, rational or make me feel like, you know, I understand that point of view. It be all dumb shit, you know, the regular talking points. And I'm like explaining to him, like, I'm like, dog, I don't understand. Like, there's nobody in the Democratic Party right now that makes you feel like, yo, I fuck with their perspectives on any topic. It's nobody in the Democratic Party that you can see as being a great leader, not even in the seats that they're in, let alone being the president of the United States of America. None of them. Like, it's not one. I don't, if there is, like, name them so I can, you know, I want to do some more research on them because I don't see nobody. I feel like I think the Democratic Party just is becoming a joke because, you know, the truth eventually will come out. As I said, bro, with social media and the internet and everything, everybody going crazy, putting out information, you no longer can hide behind the lies. Like, people are just going to expose everything, you know. And plus, like I said, bro, this shit is way, way bigger. But yo, let's get on to this whole, it's funny now because everybody was trying to diss Candace Owens, saying she, you know, somebody wrote a comment in one of my other videos talking about she's a gossip queen, you know what I mean? But this is something she do. She's a fucking journalist, you know what I mean? So, of course, she's going to be a fucking gossip queen, but at the same time, is what she's saying valid, you know? And now everybody is jumping on a train because she dropped them bombshell text messages proving that Charlie Kirk was dropping the pro-Israel cause. And, you know, outside of that, she was dropping a lot of information that was just, you know, sketchy, doesn't add up, you know, and you know, it's got to make you wonder why. Why are they doing this? You know, they literally, it's crazy. They literally like cemented or they did some type of construction where that happened, where Charlie Kirk got assassinated at, like, immediately. So, like, that's like stuff that just you don't see. You know what I mean? Like, you don't see that because, you know, you're still investigating. You might want to go back. You might, you know, anything. You know what I mean? But they said, nah, cement that shit up. We don't need nobody trying to snoop around, dig something up or anything. But anyway, let's get into this video with NissCee.
It's no secret that no one is buying the mainstream narrative surrounding the Charlie Kirk situation.
There's a lot of weird going on with this.
I know. Because something is fishy here. Something is very fishy here.
That doesn't look like
get the fuck out of here, bro. Yo, they was trying to play Candace Owens. He was one of them, trying to diss her because, you know, she was saying the things that she was saying. Now it's fishy. Come on, bro. Now it's fishy.
Breaking news, folks. Turns out Charlie Kirk had bones of steel, strong enough to stop bullets.
They said that he took it apart and then put it back together again. Shut the fuck up.
On the face of it, it seems cut and dry, but the more you peel back the layers of the onion, the stronger the stench. This case has a lot of what are the chances attached to it. What are the chances that Charlie Kirk was asked such an ironic question right before his life was taken? What are the chances that there were dozens of social media posts foreshadowing this days before the event? What are the chances that just 5 days after this event, the university starts dismantling the crime scene and replacing everything while there is still an active investigation underway? What are the chances? When there are too many coincidences surrounding an event like this, it makes you wonder if there is a larger conspiracy at play. And the information,
I'm gonna put her link in the description, man. She's definitely dope. I just started watching some of her videos, and this is a dope one, man. Let's get into it.
That I have to show you guys in this video is going to have your jaws on the floor, and you're going to be asking yourself, what are the chances? Hello everyone, if you're a new viewer, welcome. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. If this is your second, third, or fourth time watching one of my videos and you are not yet subscribed, we already go together. Okay, make it official and hit that subscribe button. Today's video is sponsored by me. In case you haven't heard, I do have a merch line. All of my designs come in both men's and women's size. Black Mirror that make more. The deeper you go down the rabbit hole, the crazier it gets. I have seen episodes of Black Mirror that make more sense than this shit. There are 3 things that I want to focus on in this video, and all of them are going to make you rethink this whole situation. Number 1, I want to address the official timeline because there are holes. Number 2, I want to talk about Hunter Kozak. He's the guy who was asking Charlie Kirk the question right before he was shot. I learned new information about him that I haven't seen anyone talk about, and it's pretty substantial information. And number 3, I want to talk about George Zinn. I haven't talked about George Zinn up until now because I largely dismissed him as some old fart who's like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but I spent hours learning about this man, and there is a lot of legitimate reason to be suspicious of him. I don't think it's a coincidence that he dropped his pants and created that huge distraction. He's not mentally insane. He's actually highly intelligent, and it's weird that people are scrubbing information about him from the internet. But I did manage to find archived information about him, and I want to talk about it. But first, let's start with topic number 1, the timeline. On September 10, 2025, Tyler Robinson was captured on home surveillance walking towards the UVU campus at 8:07 a.m. And at that time, he was just yards away from the UVU campus. At 8:23 a.m., a gray Dodge Charger registered to Tyler Robinson is seen driving through a nearby residential area, and according to the FBI, at 8:29 a.m., he arrived on campus.
Investigators reviewed additional video footage from UVU surveillance and identified Robinson arriving on UVU campus in a gray Dodge Challenger at approximately 8:29 a.m. on September 10th.
Did I deliberately not edit out the part where the guy stutters because I want it to be shady? No.
Additional video footage.
I guess it's hard to get the words out properly when you're talking shit. I have questions about this, okay? At 8:07 a.m., he is walking to the campus, and he is almost there. Then, I suppose he walks away from the campus, walks back to his car that is parked in a nearby neighborhood, gets in his car, and drives back to the campus. Why? Tyler Robinson went to great lengths to conceal his identity. So why would he drive his vehicle to the campus where his license plate could be recorded? Furthermore, how did he do all of that in such a short amount of time? It's possible that these cameras have incorrect timestamps, but law enforcement hasn't said that, so for now, I'm operating under the assumption that all of these cameras have the correct timestamps. So the next timestamp that I have for him was 9:57 a.m., where once again, home surveillance catches him walking in the same residential area as before, close to the UVU campus. At 11:44 a.m., we once again see him walking to the campus, but this time he's wearing a black long-sleeve shirt and dark pants. And we can see that he's limping, presumably because the gun is in his pants, and we see a vehicle slow down next to him, then drive off. I would like to know who was in that car. It's possible that they saw a young man walking down the street limping, and they slowed down to see if he was okay, and then they drove off. It's also possible that they knew him. It's also possible that it's just a coincidence, but this person got pretty close to him and potentially got a good look at his face. At 11:49 a.m., so 5 minutes later, Tyler Robinson is captured once again on surveillance footage walking towards UVU campus. Taylor Hansen did a great job recreating the route that Tyler Robinson took. Check it out.
He is then, once again, captured on a security camera. And you can see a lot of people have just recently walked this. The grass is pushed forward. But this is the route that he takes. He then crosses this unstable bridge, nice and soggy. This is where one of the first initial images was released. He was right here in this position, walking down the stairs in alignment with the wall. That's the camera that actually took that screen grab. And we'll retrace his route. There's another one released right here. So he went underneath this parking structure. So he swings a right right here. He's keeping his head down. Obviously, he knows that there's a camera here. And right here is where those additional images were actually released from this security camera. And he's keeping his head down just like this. He walks up. So after the tunnel and the staircase where he was caught on camera, he came out this way. Almost the entirety of this route has not had a single security camera. He walks straight out of these doors. And just like that.
Yo, remember what I said, bro. People are going to break down this shit, bro. You can't bullshit people, bro.
Right,
this dude literally took the whole entire route that this guy allegedly took.
Ultimately took the shot that murdered Charlie Kirk.
So that shows you how easy it was for him to access the roof. All he had to do was hop over the railing, run to the edge, lay down and set up his rifle. But what's interesting is that the spot that he chose was very open. If anyone had come up those stairs, they would have seen him. If they just turned to the left, they would have seen him there, setting up his rifle, setting up his shot. And I'm actually surprised that no one saw him because he was in such an open space. It's interesting. What are the chances? Something else that has surprised me, well, not really, but still, is the incompetence of the FBI. We were told this by the FBI.
When he's first spotted on campus, he has different clothing on, and then he changes clothing on the roof, and then changed back into that clothing at some point, so that when he was apprehended, when he was arrested, the clothing matched the clothing he had on before the shooting here at UV.
So he said that Tyler Robinson changed clothes on the roof.
Wrong.
We know that's not true because the still images from the surveillance footage that they released to the public show Tyler Robinson accessing the roof wearing that same outfit. We also see him walking down the street wearing that same outfit. So it's not true that he changed clothes on the roof. And this is one of the biggest frustrations I have with this case. And it's the reason that so many people don't trust what we're being told, because law enforcement just keeps contradicting themselves and saying things that are demonstrably false. And these are the people who have way more access to the information than we do. In the charging document for Tyler Robinson, it says this: police reviewed surveillance from the camera covering the roof and discovered that it recorded an individual dressed in dark clothing cross the railing from the public walkway and drop onto the roof at approximately 12:15 p.m. Although the individual moved out of the camera's view for a short time, the camera again captured the individual running across the roof and then low crawling to the area the UVU officer recognized as where the suspected sniper had dropped into a prone shooting position. After a short time, which matches the known time of the shot, the individual arose and ran across the roof to the northeast. At 12:23 p.m., so 8 minutes after the shooter had accessed the roof, Charlie Kirk was hit. And we have this footage provided by the FBI, which shows the shooter running away at 12:23, and we see the shooter jump down from the roof and run away. And this footage raises many questions. The first question raised by the footage is, why does it start when the shooter is running away? From this vantage point, we should be able to see the shooter access the roof, run across the roof, get down into a position, take his shot, and then run away. But for some reason, the FBI has not given us that footage. The other questions raised have to do with, shall we call them anomalies in the footage? As the alleged shooter is running away, everything appears normal. We can see a shadow beneath his feet, but then all of a sudden his shadow miraculously disappears. We also see that this person in the background is walking and minding their own business, and all of a sudden they just disappear. Did they enter the quantum realm? Did they just so happen to stop walking or change directions at that exact moment? Has the footage been doctored, or was the camera too low quality to accurately capture these events? Who knows? One thing that I've been waiting for is mobile ad data. Do you guys remember back when Trump was shot in Butler, Pennsylvania, the Heritage Foundation's Oversight Project had done mobile data analysis and found that someone had visited Thomas Matthew Crook's house in Pennsylvania and had also visited DC near an FBI office, and that raised a lot of suspicion. Well, I was kind of surprised that they didn't do the same thing in this instance, and I've been waiting for them to do it, but as far as I know, they haven't done it, which may or may not be of interest, especially considering that one of their former employees was implicated in this investigation the day of the shooting. Do you remember how initially the police kept arresting people, then turning around and saying that they had the wrong guy? One of those individuals was Zachariah Qureshi, and he used to work for the Heritage Foundation. Coincidentally, it was when I was looking into Zachariah Qureshi that I accidentally stumbled upon a lead pertaining to Hunter Kozak. The student questioning Kirk when he was shot is a 29-year-old Jewish math student. Some of his relatives own a security firm specializing in real-time crime prevention, using AI plus video to prevent crimes before they happen. They were featured in Campus Safety magazine this year. So this intrigued me. This was a very good lead, and truth be told, there's always been something that has seemed off, in my opinion, about Hunter Kozak. Whenever he talks about what happened, he very much gives...
My dog stepped on a bee.
In the words of a behavior analyst, his facial expressions and his words seem incongruent. Here's an example.
Yours was the last question that Charlie Kirk ever heard.
Yeah, there's a strange amount of weight to that. I don't really know how to grapple with that. I mean, he's answered tens of thousands of questions, and that was the first question I've ever asked him. We never talked before that.
There's video of you in that moment. What was that moment like?
I thought I heard a firecracker, and I see his, I see the bullet hit his neck, and I fall to the ground. I think I recognized immediately what this was. This wasn't necessarily like a mass shooting. This was like an assassination.
So the gentleman sitting next to Hunter is fighting back tears the whole time. Meanwhile, Hunter seems to be attempting to portray false emotions, and it just doesn't sit right with me. And I'm just deeply suspicious of how ironic Hunter Kozak's question was. And so I did a background check on Hunter Kozak, and I found a couple of his relatives. The first one that I found was a woman who I thought may be his mother, but I needed to confirm. So I found her Facebook profile, and I scrolled through the photos, and I found pictures of Hunter, and she referenced that he is her son. And so I had confirmation that this woman is his mother. But from what I can tell, she doesn't work in IT or crime prevention. She works in real estate, so no bueno. But I did see that she posted a picture of herself backstage at the Jimmy Kimmel show. Now let's just pause for a second, okay? You're probably wondering, like, why am I bringing all of this up? What's the point that I'm trying to make? And I promise you, there's a point to what I'm gonna say. When Charlie Kirk's life was taken, there were tons of people who said things that were insensitive. And the person who got the most heat out of everyone else was Jimmy Kimmel. This is what he said.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes.
Hey, yo, I ain't gonna lie to you. That's kind of funny, bro. Yo. Yo.
He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. Demolition, construction.
Now, Donald Trump's response to that question was trash. It lacked empathy, and it deserved to be criticized, but after Jimmy Kimmel said what he said on his show, there was a tremendous amount of backlash, and Jimmy Kimmel's show was suspended. Initially, we were told that it was suspended indefinitely, and people rallied around Jimmy Kimmel, especially Hollywood celebrities, saying that canceling his show was an attack on freedom of speech. And after being off air for about a week, Jimmy Kimmel's show returned and he apologized. But make no mistake, All of this was a huge deal. Jimmy Kimmel's name had been intertwined with Charlie Kirk's name in the headlines for days. Donald Trump got involved. People from the Trump administration got involved. There were talks about passing hate speech laws off of the back of what Jimmy Kimmel had said. Granted, there were other people who were saying things that were offensive and insensitive, and people were upset about that too. But Jimmy Kimmel, of all people, became the ultimate scapegoat. The whole media circus surrounded Jimmy Kimmel specifically. So just...
She's on to something. Hey, yo, side note, yo, you should go check this joint out I watched. It's, you know, like, just talking about hoaxes and shit, right? It's by, on YouTube, it's by this guy, his channel is called Film Is Now Movies or whatever. But he did this whole Trayvon hoax, bro. You gotta watch this shit. Yo, it just goes to show you. And I had played the video with remember that dude got punched in the face, that black dude, and this attorney, I don't know, I forget his first name, but his last name is Crump. And you know, he was involved with that. But he was also the attorney involved with a lot of these cases that had to do with the Black Lives Matter shit with Trayvon Martin and stuff like that. But this dude single-handedly broke down how that whole thing was used, you know, for propaganda, bro. Like, yo, bro, they manipulate us. Well, they try to. Well, it's kind of hard nowadays, especially with dope-ass YouTubers like this chick right here. And, you know, it's a lot of people that really do their fucking homework, bro. And this dude, for this Trayvon hoax thing, I'm talking about, this dude went so far into this shit. This nigga, like, learned urban language and, like, street language and shit, like, all types of shit. This shit was crazy, though. But just showing how much that they lie, bro. And it's just not, everything ain't what it seems. And that's
keep
what it's,
all of that in mind.
And the reason why I said that is because that's what this is looking like. This is blatantly, honestly, this is kind of sloppy shit, but this is blatantly looking like this was a professional hit, and everything that's being put out is the misdirection. You know what I'm saying? Like, the shot was from over here, but we wanted to make it seem like it was from over here. And then with, you know, she's making us some valid points, though, with the video, you know, as the video's doctored, you know, all this stuff that Candace putting out, text, you know, how he wasn't how he was talking about dropping the pro-Israel calls, you know, going to these campuses, debating people on this serious issue that people are gravitating towards. And, you know, a lot of the younger people are realizing, like, yo, we can't trust these people, bro. But it's been like that, bro. That's why I said this shit's bigger than...
But let's go back to Hunter's mom. I'm scrolling through her social media, and the Jimmy Kimmel Show just keeps popping up. And then I see a photo of her and her husband, Steve Kozak, backstage at the Jimmy Kimmel Show. Now, that name has come up before at the Jimmy Kimmel
like
Show.
A cartoon.
Steve Kozak.
So anyway, we had one of these. We had a mandatory, regularly scheduled all-staff HR meeting on Zoom. They did it on Zoom. And this is the Zoom. And if you look closely, you can see Guillermo. Zoom in on that on the Zoom if you could. Fast asleep. Does sound asleep.
So, Steve Kozak works for Jimmy Kimmel. Steve Kozak, the father of Hunter Kozak, has been working for Jimmy Kimmel for years. What are the chances that Hunter Kozak asks Charlie Kirk a very ironic question right before Charlie Kirk's life is taken in front of a live audience full of thousands of people? Jimmy Kimmel then gets brought into this by the media, simultaneously dogpiling on him and making him the scapegoat because of his monologue. And then it turns out that one of the higher-ups at Jimmy Kimmel's show is the father of the last person to speak to Charlie Kirk.
That's weird.
You can't make this shit up, especially when you consider all of the other shady things that are going on with this case. It really makes you wonder. In terms of Hunter Kozak having a relative that has an AI company that's doing crime prevention and all of that, I've not been able to substantiate that at this time, but this whole thing with his father is very interesting. Tell me what you guys think about it in the comment section down below. The last thing I want to touch on is George Zinn. Now, I want to clarify one thing about George Zinn. George Zinn has never said that he was in New York on September 11th. In the infamous video where he discusses 9/11, he very clearly says that he was in Denver when he heard the news about it.
I was in Denver.
So I just wanted to clear that up because people keep repeating it and it's not true. But despite the fact that George Zinn wasn't actually there at Ground Zero on September 11th, he is still a very questionable character.
And he only has these jobs where he's working for an ice cream shop or a candy store or a seasonal job here or there. He works for a Mormon LDS thrift store. He never actually has like any sort of a high-paying job. And yet this guy is known as the national convention guy. He's been to almost every single presidential national convention, whether it's Republican or Democrat. We're talking Reagan, both Bushes, Donald Trump, Obama. He's been to inaugurations. He snuck his way into Ronald Reagan's funeral past Secret Service, and he brags about this. He's met and knows almost every senator. He knows all the university presidents in Utah. He knows, which is interesting considering the Charlie Kirk assassination. He just has a Rolodex of people, and he pops around between New York, Denver, DC, Utah, and all of these other places around the country, which would be hard to do if you're just some guy that's working at a thrift shop, making bomb threats, periodically going to jail for terrorism and getting out.
And he also managed to attend Kobe Bryant's criminal trial back in 2003.
Another George Zinn story. Yeah. Kobe Bryant gets charged in Colorado. Oh. I'm reading ESPN online, and here's a quote by George Zinn of Utah. Mm-hmm. Did you make it into the trial?
I did. I went into a couple of them. I was just I had a Greyhound layover, and we went through Eagle, Colorado.
Where were you coming from?
It was Eagle, Colorado. And I think I was coming from a Broncos game or something. I was doing something in Denver, because I'm all the time in Denver because anyway.
Because why? Why are you all the time in Denver?
Well, I'm a Broncos fan.
Okay.
George Zinn also ran for office in Utah, and this is what he wrote about his political involvement. Additional information about the candidate. I became enthralled with politics since childhood, when my dear mother was a poll worker for years, and voting actually took place in our house. On a podcast, when he was asked what did his mother do for work, he said he didn't know.
What did your mom do for a living?
She really, I didn't know too much about her before I came in the family, but I knew she had some jobs, but she just was basically a mom.
How would you like to improve the party? I am deeply concerned at the direction our party is going, both locally and nationally. The divisiveness and disunity at every level is threatening our freedom and our sovereignty. As Ronald Reagan spoke so eloquently, government is the problem. The burden does not fall on our local or national party leaders. It rests with us. So that's what George wrote about himself back when he was running for office in Utah in 2019. Based off of his little blurb, it seems as though he was not happy with the way the Republican Party is going, and I just wonder, was that maybe a motive for him to participate in this political assassination? And something else that struck me as interesting was just how far George Zinn traveled to attend that TPUSA event. There are two universities in Utah with similar names. There is Utah Valley University, or UVU, which is where Charlie Kirk was the day that he died, and there is Utah State University, or USU, which just so happens to be walking distance from where George Zinn lives. Now, these two universities are about 3 hours apart, which means that George Zinn traveled about 3 hours to be at UVU the day that Charlie Kirk was shot. Now, what's interesting about this is that Charlie Kirk was scheduled to be at USU on September 30th had he not been killed. In other words, it would have made sense for George to have attended the September 30th event because it was going to be held within walking distance of his home. Instead, he drove 3 hours to the event on September 10th, where it just so happened that Charlie Kirk was shot. George Zinn stands up, falsely claims to be the shooter and creates a distraction. What a coincidence. Now, George is currently an inmate in Utah prison after he was arrested for falsely claiming to be the shooter. He was charged with felony obstruction of justice, misdemeanor trespassing, and the police say they found exploitation materials on his phone, so he's being held without bail, which also means that now it's harder for people in the general public, such as myself, to try to reach out to him and interview him. Anyways, that is all I have for this video. If you liked it, please don't forget to hit the like button. If you are not yet subscribed, please don't forget to hit that.
Yo, shout out to her. Her joint is NissCee Social on YouTube, man. Check her out, subscribe to the channel, show some love. Yeah, I liked it, a little breakdown, man. That was dope. But yo, this stuff is, yo, bro, what the fuck is going on in America, bro? It's so much going on, bro. Yo, I was thinking, I'm like, God damn, bro, like it's so much shit going on. Like you think about, you know, the Ukraine-Russia war. You got, you know, obviously, you know, Trump getting elected, that caused turmoil, right? The whole election. You got the Ukraine-Russia war. You got the Israel-Palestine or Gaza war. You got fucking them creating all this transgender shit, men and women's sports, fucking, bro, what else? 20 million, upwards of 20 million illegal immigrants in the country illegally. Trump trying to get them the fuck out of the country. You got people protesting ICE, protesting Donald Trump, you know, being paid to do so. So this is strategically being done. Actually, I want to show this video real quick about that. But yo, bro, it's so much stuff going on, bro. And for me, I just, bro, this is strategically happening, you know, and it's so crazy. You know what's also crazy is just thinking about, like, the fact that just processing that, let's just say hypothetically, not saying it's true, hypothetically, this guy didn't kill, wasn't the shooter, right? And there's this web of people who know the truth, who know who did it, why it was done. And there's this massive drove of information being put out. And like she said about the coincidence, it's like, it's no coincidence, bro. It's no coincidence that this specific guy asked this specific question and his dad is the fucking works with Jimmy Kimmel, and Jimmy Kimmel just so happened to be, you know, to make this derogatory comment that had him, you know, had everybody going in a frenzy about it, and it's crazy, bro. You know, them trying to, you know, the whole thing on Israel, the shit that they're doing, you know, Trump supporting Israel like every other president, so that's not like new or nothing, but you know, Trump trying to stop the wars, coming into the president seat, becoming the commander in chief with, you know, inflation high, the Fed chair not trying to lower interest rates, you know, the tariffs, all, bro, legacy media in general, report nothing but lies and propaganda. Yo, bro, it's so much shit going on. The vaccines, them pretty much linking vaccines to all types of things. I've seen some shit on that too. That shit is crazy. Like, I ain't gonna lie, I'm not fucking with the vaccination shit. You know, but it's sad, man. You can't even trust, yo, bro. You can't even trust your home country, bro. It's just, yo, it's crazy. Yo, where the hell is this damn joint at? Hold on. I know I got it. It's crazy because I actually had it queued up, but ended up going, okay, all right, let me see. All right, so this John. All right. Let's show this real fast.
Yeah, my name's Nick Shirley. I'm 23 years old. I'm a 100% independent YouTube journalist. And over the past year or so, I've been able to go to 15 countries. I've hung out with people in the gangs of Brazil, in the favelas, in the prisons of Secot. But yet the most dangerous places I have been here in the United States.
Hold on.
Fortunately. And I've had the opportunity to show people about the protest Antifa here in the United States, and there's nothing organic about what they are doing here in the United States. I've watched people be bussed in from states. I've watched the same lady at a protest in Atlanta be bused to the protest in DC and then in New York City. There's nothing that is honest about what they are doing. And they have signs. I've seen the same signs here in DC and in London as well. It's a big organization and corporation that they're running. And people may wonder, like, what's the threat to us as Americans if we go? Well, you'll be labeled as a fascist, you'll be labeled as a Nazi, and they'll wish death upon you because they wish death upon me. And just last week in Portland, Oregon, I watched a lady get trapped in her car, surrounded by Antifa, and her sister messaged me after seeing the video. She said, the only reason I think my sister was safe is because you were there recording. I also was chased out by a member of Antifa who said he would smoke me, and next thing he knew, a DHS sniper had lasers on his chest. If he was not there, who knows what would have happened that day. These people are very dangerous, and people wonder how they're able to do it. It's the reason is because these cities are not enforcing the law. And why should these people be worried if the law is not being enforced? And we are not far right, nor are we far wrong. We're just right. And the truth about what's happening here in America with these groups is very dangerous. And I thank you, Mr. President, and your administration as well for acknowledging that.
Thank you. So I just wanted to play that because, like, this is a guy who has been, traveling, going to these protests, somewhat like James Klug, and he is seeing the same people. He has watched people be busting. I've showed videos of a guy saying that he was offered money to go and protest. We've seen the flyers. We've seen multiple things that show that, this isn't organic. This is not truly how Americans are feeling. This is simply them creating all of this chaos in America, bro. And it all boils down to power and them wanting to, make Trump look bad and, eventually in hopes of gaining back power. And bro, it's really like really honestly a scary thing though, because, some of these people, bro, if they're in power, bro, like oh man, I don't even want to think about it. That's why I say the thing is crucial, bro. Like, I be having conversations with, my mans and very smart, and we like building on, a lot of things. And like, he be like, man, this shit is all a game and this, that, and the third. And I'm like, it is 100%. Like, it's 100% a fucking game that they're playing, bro. And we're the pawns. And they don't care about knocking over the pawns. You feel what I'm saying? So that's the scary truth about all of this is that, we're just, nothing in the grand scheme of things. And we're being used as tools to be involved with this bullshit that's going on. Like some of the things that's going on, but you gotta, bro, come on. You like, what? Like, why are we even, bro, it's so crazy, bro. It's so deep. Just even the small things like, the hoaxes, and you look at, the Fine People hoax, and you like, and then you realize like he didn't even say that, and they keep calling him a white supremacist, and got the whole half the nation believing that Donald Trump is a racist, and whatever the case may be, you know, and my whole thing is based off of information that they're putting out that is inaccurate. You feel what I'm saying? So like, that's why I say like, yo, people gotta wake up and stop being slaves, because the real problems is that the government is too big. We need smaller government. You know, we need to stop paying fucking taxes in general. Like, I don't like the fact that we pay taxes is crazy. Like, it's super crazy. They take a nice chunk of our money, you know, that we worked for. Like, why should I have to pay you? Like, I pay you in every aspect of life. I am paying for. You know what I'm saying? I buy a car. I gotta buy, in order for me to drive my vehicle, I gotta get insurance. I gotta get tags. I gotta get it registered in the state that I'm in. You know, I gotta rent my home or buy my home. And even if I buy my home, I have to pay property taxes on it annually. And if I don't pay them property taxes, you could come scoop right on in and grab the home that I paid $500,000 for. Food. You know, you literally go buy food and then on top of that have to pay a sales tax, depending on where you live at. You know what I'm saying? So we're getting taxed to oblivion in every aspect of life. They have monopolized life. And like, you know, and this is why I say I agree. This is a game. We're in it, but we're the ones being played. And instead of us waking the fuck up to the realities of, you know, changes that need to be made, you know, we just, you know, all we care about is, oh, I'm a Democrat, you're a Republican, so I disagree with you, and I disagree with you, and you know, like, bro, this shit is way deeper than that, bro. You know what I mean? And this is and we can easily just imagine if everybody in America, you know, outside of politicians and everybody that's, you know, in the government or whatever, and we all, you know, band together and say, yo, look, you know, I don't know, something that would extremely affect the federal government. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what that would be. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Nobody fucking buys, you know, nobody goes shopping for a week or something. I don't know. You know, I don't know. Some shit like that. Some crazy shit. Or, you know, nobody shows up to work today. You know, and the whole world just like shuts down. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, it sounds crazy, but at the end of the day, like, how do you get the control back? You know what I'm saying? Because it's so much benefits that could come out of, you know, the tax, our money that they're taking from us, but instead they're giving it to bullshit programs. They're, you know, foreign countries galore. Like, we're literally giving so much money to foreign countries, bro. It's ridiculous. And I'm talking about for the dumbest things, bro. I was trying to actually find this video with Senator Kennedy, but I couldn't find it quickly. It's somewhere in here, man. But he was breaking down, you know, he was showing all of the money that was being spent on from taxpayers on a whole bunch of shit that you're just like, why are they using our money for these things? And it's all, you know, everything is the money. Everything is to make us struggle, depend on the government, and you know, keep a stronghold on us, bro. It's sad, bro, to be honest with you, because we can truly be a great nation. You know what I'm saying? Without wars, without the goofy stuff, we can truly be great. You know what I'm saying? But we can never be great if we don't stand for something. You know what I'm saying? And we just let these small, minute group of people literally control everything. Like, it's sad. It's crazy. But hey, man, that's the world we live in, and that's why I said, man, we gotta smarten up. Even if it's individually, we gotta stand for something, bro. You know what I mean? But hey, man, that's the video for today, man. This your boy SL550. Listen, man, if you like the show, please hit that like button. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Your boy on the road to monetization, man. I need them 500 subscribers. I appreciate everybody who has subscribed to the channel, man. Got your boy past that 100 mark. I was really looking forward to that, you know what I'm saying? You know, these small steps towards success is always a great feeling, man. And anybody out there that's looking to get into podcasting, dog, get into it, you know, strive for greatness, dog, and keep focused on the mission, which is trying to build you know, some generational wealth for you and your family, man. Yo, until tomorrow, man, it's your boy SL550. This is the Never Gonna Lose Again podcast. I'm out.
Millionaire thoughts, billionaire dreams. I know niggas who played ball and gave it up for lean.
Millionaire thoughts, billionaire dreams, but my account in overdraft, I'm about to scream.
Rich man greed,
a poor man prayers.
Every man bleeds,
but look how God made us.
Too many losses, it's only right that we win. Yeah, I made a promise I'm never gonna lose again.